Listen closely, because when the loudest voices in right-wing media turn on each other, something deeper is happening, and it is not entertainment. This is not a personality clash. This is a public rupture unfolding in real time inside one of the most influential media ecosystems in the country. And at the center of it sits an uncomfortable question. Who controls the narrative when conspiracy culture starts accusing itself? If you value long-form investigations like this, subscribing helps keep this channel independent. Turning on notifications makes sure you don't miss what happens next. Now let's begin. Alex Jones has made a career out of telling his audience that powerful forces lie, coordinate, and manipulate from the shadows. But this time, the target is not a government agency, not a corporation, not a foreign state. This time, Alex Jones aimed his full attention at Candace Owens, and he did it publicly. On his InfoWars broadcast, Jones did not hedge. He did not soften his language. He did not leave room for reconciliation. He said he would examine everything she says and does and tear it apart. Coming from anyone else, that might sound like routine media rivalry. Coming from Alex Jones, it was a declaration. Because Jones was not positioning himself as a critic, he was positioning himself as an investigator, and that matters. For years, Candace Owens has built a massive following by questioning institutions, motives, and official explanations. She does not merely comment on events, she reframes them. And in recent months, she became the gravitational center of right-wing media attention after amplifying claims surrounding the killing of conservative activist Charlie Kirk, claims that go far beyond publicly verified information. Owens alleged coordinated deception. She suggested betrayal from within. She raised questions about intelligence involvement. And she did so in front of millions. Her first show addressing the case, titled in a way that directly challenges official accounts, exploded on YouTube, pulling in viewership numbers that rivaled major networks. Supporters called it courage. Critics called it reckless. But behind the scenes, something else was happening. The ecosystem was fracturing. At Turning Point USA's America Fest, Ben Shapiro took the stage and delivered what many in the room did not expect. He named names. He accused prominent figures, including Owens, of operating as performers rather than truth seekers. He used words like frauds and grifters. And in that moment, the conflict moved from commentary to confrontation. Owens responded instantly. She did not argue the substance. She went personal. She accused Shapiro of resentment. She implied long-standing jealousy, and she drew a line that forced others to pick a side. But the most consequential response did not come from Shapiro. It came from Alex Jones. Jones accused Owens of making claims that collapse under basic scrutiny. He accused her audience of harassment. Then he escalated. He said he needed to investigate her, not rhetorically, investigate. He claimed he had ignored warning signs. He framed that decision as a mistake. Then he issued an apology, not to Owens, but to his audience, for what he described as failing to act sooner. And then he said something that stunned even seasoned observers of the space. He accused Candace Owens of being a globalist agent. For Jones's listeners, that phrase carries weight. It is not casual language. It is an accusation that implies coordination, deception, and allegiance to forces hostile to the movement. Owens did not stay silent. She responded publicly. She mocked the claim. She pointed out that she met her husband through people connected to InfoWars itself. She posted photographs. She turned Jones's accusation into a challenge. And with that, the conflict crossed a point of no return. Because now both sides were implying something more than disagreement. They were implying infiltration. At the same time, the claims surrounding Charlie Kirk's death continued to circulate.
Owens suggested that people close to him were not telling the truth. She hinted at institutional involvement. She questioned timelines. She questioned motives. These claims placed her directly at odds with Erica Kirk, Charlie Kirk's widow and the newly named CEO of Turning Point. Erica Kirk made a rare public plea. She asked Owens to stop. She said the claims were false. She framed them as harmful. That request did not slow the momentum. It amplified it. In true crime reporting, escalation often follows a familiar pattern: an initial claim, a counter-narrative, public confrontation, then factional alignment. That's exactly what unfolded here. Some influencers rallied behind Owens, arguing that questioning power is never wrong. Others sided with Jones and Shapiro, arguing that credibility matters, even inside alternative media. And through it all, view counts climbed, subscriber numbers rose, algorithms rewarded engagement. If you're finding this breakdown valuable, sharing it helps others understand how these media wars actually work. What makes this moment different is not the accusations themselves, it's who is making them. Alex Jones, whose own history includes widely criticized false claims, is now casting himself as the skeptic. Candace Owens, who built her brand questioning mainstream narratives, is now accused of going too far by the very audience that once celebrated her. This is inversion, and inversion creates instability. Jones has promised persistence. He said this would not end quickly. Owens continues to broadcast. Her audience remains massive. Her influence has not diminished, and neither side shows signs of retreat. What is unresolved is not just who is right, it's who decides what truth looks like inside a movement built on rejecting official accounts. Because once conspiracy culture begins policing itself, the rules are no longer clear. Who gets investigated? Who gets protected? And who benefits when the spotlight turns inward? These are not abstract questions. They determine who retains power over millions of viewers. They determine which narratives survive, and they determine what happens next. We're watching a civil conflict play out in public, not with silence, not behind closed doors, but through broadcasts, posts, and accusations delivered to a global audience in real time. Stay with this story. Subscribe to support continued reporting. Turn on notifications because this situation is still moving. And if you have thoughts on where this is heading, add your voice below, because the next move has not been made yet. And when it is, it will not happen quietly.
What complicates this conflict further is that it is no longer confined to words alone. Behind the scenes, platform mechanics are shaping behavior. Creators who push confrontation are rewarded with visibility. Those who hesitate lose momentum. Several media analysts tracking engagement trends noticed a sharp increase in algorithmic amplification whenever this feud escalated. Clips that framed the conflict as betrayal or exposure consistently outperformed standard commentary. That matters because reach translates directly into revenue, and revenue shapes incentives. Both Jones and Owens operate in ecosystems where attention equals survival. Subscription platforms, direct donations, merchandise sales, sponsorships routed through intermediaries. When audiences fragment, creators must either consolidate loyalty or risk irrelevance. That pressure is real. Sources familiar with right-wing media operations say private group chats and internal Slack channels lit up as soon as Jones escalated, not with outrage, with calculation. Who benefits if Owens is discredited? Who gains if Jones reclaims authority as the arbiter of credibility? One media consultant described it this way: credibility has become a scarce currency, and scarcity drives conflict. At the same time, legal exposure hangs quietly in the background. Defamation law does not care about ideological alignment. Accusations framed as fact, even inside alternative media, can carry consequences.
Multiple attorneys who monitor political media disputes have pointed out that claims involving intelligence agencies, foreign governments, or private individuals cross into high-risk territory when repeated without substantiation. Yet, those risks have not slowed the rhetoric. Instead, the language has shifted. Statements are increasingly framed as questions. Speculation is packaged as investigation. Assertions are softened just enough to avoid explicit claims. This is a familiar pattern in high-profile cases. It allows deniability while still planting doubt. Owens continues to suggest that official explanations leave gaps. Jones continues to suggest that Owens herself is the gap. Neither side is backing away. Meanwhile, other figures are choosing silence. Some prominent influencers who once collaborated with both camps have stopped mentioning the conflict entirely. Others have quietly unfollowed. A few have restricted comments. Silence in this environment is also a signal. It suggests risk assessment, because taking a side now means inheriting the consequences later. What also cannot be ignored is timing. This fracture is unfolding as the media landscape shifts toward 2026, when political influence will once again be measured in audience size and message discipline. Movements under external pressure often fracture internally first. History shows that internal disputes tend to surface when power structures feel threatened, and this one is playing out in public view. Jones has hinted at releasing material. He has referenced documentation without showing it. He has alluded to conversations without naming sources. Owens, for her part, continues to post cryptic responses that keep her audience engaged without fully addressing the accusations. This keeps the cycle active. If you're following this closely, subscribing ensures you stay ahead of developments as they happen. Another layer rarely discussed is the role of audience mobilization. Supporters on both sides are not passive observers. They clip, they repost, they annotate, they pressure other creators to take positions. This crowdsourced amplification turns personal disputes into mass movements. Once that happens, control slips away from the original speakers. Even attempts to de-escalate can be interpreted as admission, so escalation becomes the default. Industry insiders describe this phase as the most volatile, not because of what has been said, but because of what might be said next. Jones has framed his stance as corrective. Owens has framed hers as resistance. Those frames are incompatible, and when incompatible frames collide, the result is not resolution, it is fracture. What remains unclear is how far either side is willing to go. Will documentation actually surface? Will accusations harden into formal claims? Will platforms intervene, quietly, or wait until pressure mounts? No one is answering those questions publicly, but conversations are happening, privately, off camera, and those conversations often precede visible action. Stay with this investigation. Turn on notifications so you don't miss what follows. And if you see patterns others might overlook, share your perspective below, because the story is still moving, and the next development may come from the place no one is watching yet.